You have this thought, you focus on it, the universe provides, you accept, you detach from how it actually has to, how all the details have to fall in, and then this amazing opportunity is presented to you. And you can't explain how that all happened. Of course, I feel you can, because you just shift your thoughts to what you want, not what you don't want. But on the outside, someone may say, oh, well, things are always working out for you. You guys, everything's working out for you guys. Like Costa Rica and the yoga retreat and camp and building Yogi Triathlete and the podcast guest, like it's always working out for you. But this has been years and years together working towards creating and focusing on what we wanted, really what we wanted, seeing many times outside of us what we didn't want, which created that contrast and built our desire and fortitude that what we are doing is exactly what we're supposed to be doing, and we don't see another way. There's no other way.
This is a very different book. There is no book like this in the athlete space, and I'm really excited to see where she goes. And this book moved through me starting in 2020 in a way where I couldn't stop it, so I had to start writing. But this was also the birth of the Awake Athlete podcast, because I knew I had to get this information out sooner. We were in the middle of this pandemic and not everybody was thriving. And so that was really where a lot of the writing began. And then with the murder of our friend Mary, made me realize more than anything that life can end in any moment, and I didn't want mine to end without this being in the world. Welcome to the Yogi Triathlete podcast. I'm Jess. I'm here with BJ, and this is our January 2023 O Show. I often hear from people that this is their favorite episode of the month, and I thank you for that, because like today, we don't really know what we're going to talk about. So it's really cool to see just like an honest riff is a chosen favorite.
Yeah, I think people love this episode the most, probably because it's, I don't know, maybe it's just because it's our own thoughts and expressions released in the moment. Because like you said, I think we gathered for this podcast for this episode, in the last 10 minutes, we were throwing topics from the balcony, the studio, down to the bathroom. We always have stuff to talk about. Always.
I'm going to start off this podcast with just thanking everybody who supports us on Patreon. There are some great perks up there. We have the Awake Athlete community. We have one-on-one mindset coaching sessions wrapped into the Awake Athlete community. We have yoga recordings. We have weekly live classes. And those are perks. Those are just extra things that we do to say thank you so much for supporting the show, so that we can keep it commercial free, so that we can support our amazing producer that creates this audio adventure for you guys every week, so that we can support and pay Linda, who is not only Yogi Triathlete's nutrition coach, but she is also the podcast marketing and production assistant. And you guys, this podcast does not happen without Patreon. It just doesn't happen without the Patreon support. And sometimes we have heard people say, well, I can't get to the live classes, so I'm going to cancel my Patreon. And we just ask you to remember that it's bigger than that. The yoga class is us saying thank you for helping us keep this show going, and that there is a bigger purpose. So if you do pull inspiration that you put into action from this podcast, from the amazing guests that we've had, we are going on 7 years, 8 years? What are we going on? 7 years this year in 2023. We started in 2016. And again, is it 8 years? If you listen to this podcast, then you know I shouldn't be doing math right now. It's like doing math during a race. It's not going to happen without my calculator. It doesn't happen without Patreon. So for as little as $5 a month, you can support this show and keep it going and support the team of people that, from our guests to our producer to our production assistant, you can support this whole community and getting this message out to the world, to live this awake and ready life, to turn in and realize the better world that we all know already exists. Like our teacher says, everybody's trying to fix the mud puddle. We don't need to fix the mud puddle. We need to turn in and look at the mud, that's within us, that's clogging up our vision. And so thank you to our Patreon supporters. I can't say it enough. This podcast does not exist without you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is a passion of ours. And I was just thinking back how long, 8 years, 2016. We left the East Coast, headed to the West Coast.
7 years.
So it's 2016.
Here we go.
17,
marital dispute.
18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23.
Oh, I missed a year.
Yeah. So
I must have one less finger.
We're in year 8. And we never knew it would take us to this place. The O Show was a new addition. We've done the extras with our guests. We would stick around after and post those little specials to YouTube. There's been so many renditions of the podcast, but the one thing that we have held true to is that we show up every Monday. Well, we show up, today's Friday, but the podcast shows up to all of you on Monday. At some point on Monday, an episode of the podcast will drop, and there's so much good information in it. Whether the guest resonates with you or not, listen to what they're saying, because there's always some element of mindfulness, of overcoming a struggle, or simply just being able to vocalize their belief. And so, because I find myself doing that with other podcasts, like, I don't want to listen to this particular person, but I know the conversation has content that is going to provide me with something, some sort of growth. And so be open to that. Same thing with Patreon. Be open to it. If you feel like what we're saying speaks to you and you want to continue to support us, look at Patreon and reach out to us if you guys have questions. Want to talk to us directly. Let us know.
Who did we just interview? Taylor Spivey and I think it was Jen Temperley. Hi, Jen. I know she's a regular listener of the show. Posted on there like that this was one of like the OG podcasts, and it really was. It was like Rich Roll, of course, which was an initial inspiration, and then Julia Hanlon with Running on Om, and then she got tips from Rich, and I got tips from Julia, and here we are. We started this that many years ago, and so it's so cool to see the numbers, like the people who are just who listen as soon as it drops on Monday. Like we see that. We see you guys. It's like always that same number of listens that we get on that first Monday. And then what's super cool is going back to like episode 1, which I always encourage people to do. Go back to episode 1. Like just listen to how hard I am trying to sound like a podcast host. It's really great. She was fabulous. She just wanted to do a super good job. I sound a little serious and my voice sounds a little controlled. But we go back and we just see like, oh my God, that was at like 300 and now it's at 3,000. And it's so cool. Like we don't have 75,000 yet. But it's just amazing that, you guys showing up, you have a choice and you choose this, that it makes a difference. And I think the coolest thing is when we hear from a listener who has shared a nugget of wisdom with someone that they love or somebody in their community, and then that person has put it into action. And then similarly, when somebody who has been an avid listener and somebody in their community or a loved one says to them, hey, like, what are you doing? So a lot of people will say that to you when you start meditating, like, what are you doing? I want some of what you've got. And that's the effect of this podcast, is like just listening to it and putting these little nuggers into action is shifting you in a positive way. And that's how we create a better world.
Well, let's bring it into how the podcast influenced our latest news with hiring of a new run coach.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
She told that story today on our Friday Live for the team.
Yeah. So Melissa Gansz is our new Yogi Triathlete running coach. And we're not going to rush her, but she is also triathlon. So we're going to let her get her feet wet in building her roster with running. But know that she's got this great knowledge of swimming and biking also as complement to running, which is, I think, a really, really special add-on for a running coach. So if you are a runner, maybe looking into, what's all this swim fitness they talk about and bike fitness they talk about, Melissa is a great option to begin to get your feet wet there. She did come on board on January 1st, and she is accepting athletes, although her roster is already filling up, which is so cool. So everybody hold steady. We might need another coach here soon. I'm sure at some point we're going to have Melissa on here. She's so well-spoken. She's so confident. She's so open to learning. I really got to spend a lot of time with her in Costa Rica because she came on retreat last year. Somebody who had an inspiration, put it into action, came to Costa Rica, and now boom, like you just never know where things are going to lead. Prior to that, she was somebody we just knew from Instagram. She was following me on Instagram, but we got the full story when Bij and I talked to her on Zoom about coaching with us, that she found us in 2020 and started listening to the podcast. And if you know Melissa, then you know that what she learned, she put into action, and things were shifting and changing for her. And so I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I think that she's as excited to be on board with Yogi Triathlete as we are. So honored and feel very blessed to have her on board. She's been working with you, BJ, and from what I hear after your calls with her and just kind of looking at notes and how she's coaching right now, that she's pretty excellent.
Yeah, this is also a passion of mine, is to bring people up. I did it in my last job. My focus was hire people out of college and begin to work with them and in a way that they understood the flow of business or flow of how you can seize this opportunity to learn, and that what you bring to the table is all I ask is this earnestness or curiosity of how things play out, and then being willing to just apply that to your philosophy in your life. And so, yeah, I'm having calls with her weekly, and even seeing her open up to, she's doing some Tower 26 workouts, and she's loving the Tower 26 format that we so much believe in, so strongly believe in for our athletes. And it's just a matter of time. It's just gonna be a matter of time before her roster is full. It's good to have this structure, this kind of framework that we have, but it's also, I really love that we celebrate the uniqueness of all our coaches and what they can bring to the table. And I know that Melissa's working on her herbalist degree. Master's degree. So we're going to have that element to play upon Linda, who's our nutrition coach, and then all of us who are in the depths of not only coaching, but in our own experiences, moving for years from a diet that wasn't serving us to a more aligned, vibration with the food that we put in our bodies. So momentum, just more momentum. Melissa's making this happen.
Yeah, I mean, that addition of having an herbalist as a coach on the team is amazing, because now our athletes, this team of athletes, during the coaches' lives, they can ask her questions. Like, this is an unbelievable resource. And I think I would be remiss not to talk about the manifestation that is Melissa, because when we recognized that we, really needed to bring on another running coach, I had quite a list of what I was asking for from the universe. I mean, not often do you get a running coach who also has experience with triathlon, who also meditates, right? Which is like 1% of the people on this planet, which is still a lot of people, but very, very few when you look at the percentages. I mean, all these different things. Somebody who had experience coaching, but was, younger in the field, somebody who was confident, but somebody who was open to learning. I mean, I basically described her to the universe, not thinking about her in my mind. And then I just left it. I just said, okay, universe, you get a couple good manifestations under your belt because you learn to trust as opposed to fear. It becomes you just know, okay, universe, boom, here it is. And now I'm just going to get into the receiving mode by allowing things to organize on our behalf, which is not typically, I don't think, how people do business, but it's how we do business. And so if you work with us, then you're going to get to know that that's how we do business. But I think the important thing here is not only did she meet everything on the list, she's more. This piece of, bringing this medicine of herbalism to the team, to people who are really looking for ways to support themselves naturally in their health through food and now herbs. It's just one of those things that when you lighten up your kung fu grip because you're not fearing the world so much, and you lean into trust because you begin to really know who you are, and you realize that the trust that you're leaning into and the who you're asking is really that same energy that's within you, everything comes back so much better than you could have planned. I mean, and we've talked about this on the show before. I mean, in recent months, it was the Airbnb host in Kona who we happened to run into, who happened to have an animal sanctuary, who happened to, want us to come up and see it, and then drove us to the airport and took our picture and wants us to come back and will hold the place for us. Who on Palani Hill is oh, I'll hold this Airbnb for you. I mean, it's just when you replace fear with trust, right? Because the only reason we don't trust is because we fear. So when you lean into trust, fear will be starved and life will be so much easier. And it comes back to you way better than you could have put on your list.
Yeah, fear is, there's no room for fear. There's no room for it. And there's so many opportunities throughout your entire day. I just was talking to an athlete about this. It's a rampant thing. This constant fear is just so up in your grill a lot. But that's the time to work with it. That's plenty of times to work with it. But as I also have been saying, you need to be awake and ready for that opportunity to work with it.
Yeah, because that's the mind training. When the fear is in your grill, there's the mind training. You can sign up for mindset coaching. You can join Team Yogi Triathlete. You can do all those things, but that's not going to train your mind. You train your mind when the exact thing that you don't want is either in your head or in your face, and you redirect it. You use your power of your will to begin to create new neural pathways in your brain. That's the mind training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's if you invest in it, right? Wake up. You're awake and ready. You're seeing all these opportunities. You're working through it. You're feeling that discomfort. Sometimes it's smooth. Most times it's not. It's really a struggle, and you begin to understand the way that you process things. The thoughts will continue to flood in. They'll never stop. I was just out on a run on the beach at low tide. I have 10 weeks to Oceanside. I'm nowhere near as fit as I've ever been. And the thought rose up that said, how will I ever be able to run fast in 10 weeks, right? The total human element. Instantaneously, it just shifts to so what? So what? You've done this before. And who cares? Who cares if you don't run fast on the race? Who cares if you don't do the race? It doesn't matter. There'll always be another race. So it constantly shifts. This is the work in this is the work that you've done, in my opinion, now showing up and rewarding you, because now you've moved through it so quickly and it's already gone. It's such a funny thought. The point being, the thoughts are always going to flood in. They're always happening. There'll never be a door shut on these thoughts. It's really about how we react to them. And that is the essence of why we meditate, why we do yoga, and why we believe so firmly in being an awake athlete. Be awake to what is happening in front of you while it's happening. So there's no substitution for training the mind. There is no substitution for it, working with it in the moment when all these things are challenging. The easy way is to just kind of dismiss it and not work with it, only to see it rise again and yet provide you another opportunity to work with it. And then you can either decide to work with it or dismiss it again. And the more you dismiss it, the stronger it's going to show up, more frequently it's going to show up, and it's really going to subconsciously or consciously irritate you to a point where you're going to be disgruntled about it. Yeah, so work with it now.
The dismissal is lazy. And that's not an assault on anyone. I also have a mind that wants to be lazy. I have a mind that's like, oh, come on, not today. Not today. I had all this stuff I was going to do today. Now I got to deal with this. But it's being awake and ready and being like, yeah, of course. Thank you. I am going to deal. My peace is disturbed, as Michael Singer says. Like, as soon as you notice that your peace is disturbed, like, there's your work. But you were making me think of something, about the universal year number 7, which is 2023. And the mantra, this is for everyone. The mantra for the universal intention this year is, I believe all things are possible. And I feel like, BJ, you know all things are possible. So that kind of limiting belief when you're running down the beach, it's like...
it's not helpful.
Yeah, like if it was, like what level 1 to 10, what kind of power does a thought like that have over you?
10 being extreme?
10 being extreme.
1.5. But in the past, it's probably been about a 6 or 7.
Oh my God, for me, it was like a 10.
Well, I was just going to say, when it comes to nighttime and those thoughts wake you up, yeah, it's a 10. You can't get back to bed. You're distraught. You're just caught up in the tornado of emotions about limiting your belief. But I love that's the theme, because that's like the theme of my existence now. It's like all things are possible. You have to constantly believe that. Like, I believe that. It may not be on the timeline that I want or the timeline that you want, but if you believe, I just turned 50, and people have been saying, oh, so how do things shift or how do things change? They don't. I still believe I'm getting faster and I'm getting stronger. And that is my belief. That's what I believe. I choose to believe that. Whether it happens or not, that's actually out of my control to a point. Like, it's none of my business. But what makes me feel good is that belief and the work I do towards achieving that belief. Yeah, bringing it into manifestation.
So the 7 year, the universal year 7. So that's our intentions, right? So there's a good mantra, everyone. You want a mantra? Here's your mantra.
All things are possible.
I believe all things are possible. And don't, wake up tomorrow and go, oh, I'm going to have another mantra, and then I'm going to have another mantra in the afternoon, and have another mantra tomorrow. Just stick with one mantra. Like, do you want a bunch of shallow holes, or do you want one big deep hole? That's the one you want. You just want to go out, shovel the same thing every day, right? Like, show up, do the work. But it's a year, so it's a highly spiritual year energetically. I mean, so people who have been wanting to step onto this path of knowing who they are, knowing truth, getting out, pulling up the shades on fear. This is your year to do it. Like, you're going to feel more inspiration than you have before. And so that's there for a reason. Like BJ was saying, like, the things that you dismiss, they're just going to keep coming back and back and back. Well, same thing. It works both ways. Works in a really good way too. And even the bad things are actually pushing you in a good way. But it's about having and acting in faith. It is time for some serious self-study and meditation. So that's 2023. You'll have a lot of energy available for that. So if you're like, I should probably start meditating. Yes, this is the year right now. Do it today. Pause the podcast, take 5 breaths. There you go. You just had, something just came in. What was it?
Oh, the opposite will happen too. So if you're dismissing the thoughts, they'll keep returning. But if you begin to work with it and you start manifesting things, then those too will show up quite frequently. And one of them was being able to go teach at the gym again, locally here in Oceanside, which my desire or focus for this year is strength. I don't know. It came to me in a meditation, I think. So what does that mean? Does it mean I, dive into a weight training program where I'm, banging some big weight around and, increasing by 30 or 40 pounds, weight belt. Yeah. My wrist guards that I used to have.
Get your wrist guards out.
No, what it means to me is just focus on just notching up my attention. I know, I always have to say that. Just bringing my attention more to the body and what do I feel as an opportunity and just have strength work as just dialed up in up the ladder of importance for me. Before I go, I just went out for the run, but I spent 15 minutes doing just some activation and some strength training. So with that, I detached from how it had to look. In my mind, I framed it as, okay, I'll do some more lunges and wall sits, and we have a TRX, and this is all going to be fine. And, that's going to be a great year. But what ended up happening is I got an email from the old gym I would teach yoga at over here in Oceanside, and they're looking for yoga instructors. So I said yes, and I have 2 classes there starting the first week in February, and I'll be able to have a free gym membership, which not only gives me the ability to work with the strength, dumbbells and barbells and all the weight stuff, but also gets me a treadmill, which you all know I love working on a treadmill. So when you detach, my point is when you have this thought, you focus on it, the universe provides, you accept, you detach from how it actually has to, how all the details have to fall in, and then this amazing opportunity is presented to you. And you can't explain how that all happened. Of course, I feel you can, because you just shift your thoughts to what you want, not what you don't want. But on the outside, someone may say, oh, well, things are always working out for you. You guys, everything's working out for you guys. Like Costa Rica and the yoga retreat and camp and building Yogi Triathlete and the podcast guest, like it's always working out for you. But this has been years and years together working towards creating and focusing on what we wanted, really what we wanted, seeing many times outside of us what we didn't want, which created that contrast and built our desire and fortitude that what we are doing is exactly what we're supposed to be doing, and we don't see another way. There's no other way that things can happen. So yeah, I love that. I wrap it back to whatever you focus on expands. If you dismiss the fear will come back. If you focus on things that you want, they'll eventually continually flood in, as long as you don't attach to how it actually has to happen.
And that's all about faith. That's all about how there is non-physical support that is organizing things on your behalf, right? So quantum physics would say you throw out a desire. You say, I want more strength. So that's actually, you throw out, it's a quantum wave. And if you keep feeding that wave, right, where you were like, well, I can't because I don't have a gym, and you start talking about what you don't have and how you can't do it, even though you want it. Instead, you said, I want it, and this is how I'm going to do it, and I'm very content with that. So you're feeding the quantum wave, you're not splitting your energy, and then that will come back to you. And it will come back to you better than you could have imagined. You were very happy with TRX and wall sits in the house.
I made peace with it.
But now you have a whole gym. And actually, it just happened to me today. So I was saying that for 2023, like it was just more yoga. It was like more yoga. And I'm like, I don't know how, like, am I going to practice more? Am I going to go back to like join a studio? Like, am I going to pick up a class on the beach instead of subbing? I don't know. Like, but more yoga. And that's it. I was like, okay, more yoga. I'm excited for more yoga. And just today, I'm just realizing, making this connection, I was doing an in-person mindset session on the beach, and my client said to me, would you do a private yoga class with me? So I came home and I was like, oh, I'm going to add that to the Awake Athlete website. Like, yeah, I love teaching you. I love teaching yoga, and I would love to do in person. And in fact, we've been asked to teach at a camp before Oceanside. And so it's already coming because I got the hit more yoga, and I was like, yeah, I'm all in. I don't have to figure out today. And now it's already coming. And so like you were just saying, like, oh, everything's working out. Well, we could make it go the other way. I mean, we could totally change our thoughts to exactly what we don't want, and we could crash and burn. Like manifest, it's neutral. Universe is neutral. It answers your vibration. So that's why you want to look at words like, well, one thing that I've shifted is, instead of I don't want to forget, I say, BJ, can you help me remember? Because the way the universe works, it works on vibration. It answers vibration. So when you say, I don't want to forget, there's a negative vibration in there. And so it will answer that negatively. When you say, hey, can you help me remember? Now you're asking for support. You're in a receiving mode, and you're focusing on what you want, which is to remember, as opposed to what you don't want, which is to forget. So it answers on vibration. We are vibrational beings living in a vibrational universe. And that's the truth. Okay.
That's pretty much.
Next topic.
Yeah. So
I'm 100% sure it's going to swing back this way at some point in the conversation. But let's switch the topics and see how it goes. Oh, wait, hold on. I have another thing, though. Ashwagandha keeps coming into my life. Like I don't know, everywhere I look, ashwagandha, people talking ashwagandha. So we ordered some new cacao. And then I happened to see that Nola, who is One World Cacao's founder, had this cacao, which I'm drinking right now, called Balance. And I was like, ooh, that sounds good. It's a blend. And then when we got it and I looked at it, guess what it has in it? Ashwagandha. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I like this stuff.
OneWorldCacao.com.
OneWorldCacao.com. Yeah. Don't we have a discount with them too? Yogi Triathlete 10?
I believe so.
If that doesn't work, message us. We'll get you the right one. But I'm pretty sure it's Yogi Triathlete 10. It's 10%. It it definitely covers your shipping. It helps. And she's amazing. She's been on the podcast a couple times. So, all right, next subject.
Bike camp.
Oh, bike camp, dude.
Bike camp's still going on. I think we talked about this like 2 podcasts ago.
Bike camp is. I think I had my first failure on Tuesday. I had my first failure, but it doesn't mean I'm a failure. I just failed. I had at like 45 minutes or something. I had to call it because my legs felt fine, but I felt absolutely drained of energy.
This was after camp too, so 5 days of camp.
It was after camp, and also during camp, my parents were losing their dog. And so like after holding space and training during camp, I'm on the phone with my mom and my dad as they're crying and and the dog's dying. And so I emptied the coffers a little bit. And so when I got back on the bike on Monday for Icefall, I was the one that fell.
Icefall is the name of a workout in Trainer Road, which is, it's over unders. So you bump up above FTP and you bump back down.
And what was happening was just like my heart rate was just through the roof, and like I just couldn't recover. And
probably the most challenging workout in the whole.
My ego likes
in
that.
the whole workout in the whole bike camp, because in my opinion, working through the 30 seconds at VO2, 30 seconds off, you're constantly going back, and the off is super easy. And then you get into the sweet spot, the 3 by 10 minutes, and that's kind of steady because that's at 80%. And then the super intense sprints are only 20 seconds, and then you get like 4 or 5 minutes rest after it. But the over-unders, it's a constant. It never gives you enough time to rest because you're bouncing up and below that FTP line. So I feel those are the most challenging. But they really work. They really work your engine, your muscular endurance. Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough. So, at the beginning of bike camp, you look at the workouts and nothing's over an hour. 2 days you have double rides. And so you have heard that, like you've heard this, like, I want to do more. Bike camp,
when it first came out, people were like, can I do more though if I want? And I ride long on Saturday. Can I do that too in between? My advice was just stick with camp. It's 6 hours a week, roughly 6 to 7 hours a week. It's intense.
Plus swimming, plus biking, plus yoga.
But those are taken, down a notch. Just let the fatigue start to settle in. And as of week 4 and 5, you can definitely feel people are feeling it.
Yeah. So I think it was like at the end of week 5, it almost broke me twice, but it didn't. I was like, I think I did like a story on it. I was like, still winning. And on Tuesday of this week 7, so I've got this week, next week, and then the beginning of the following week, which I guess would be officially week 9 for me, is I'll do another ramp test to check the FTP. And then, but yeah, like now it's like I'm feeling 7 weeks of bike camp in my legs. And today's session was the 200% FTP, 20 seconds. And then it was more, right? Now it's more. I'm not...
more frequency.
Yeah, more frequency and a little less rest. Then I have an hour ride tonight, which actually this ride is nice, unless you've changed it. But I think it's pretty easy.
Could be Lazy Mountain.
Yeah, that one's pretty easy. But the double ride on Sunday, like the second ride is like, it's easy, but it's like not easy. Like you still have to have a certain amount of effort, and that's after an hour of low cadence work, which is the first ride. So anyway, bike camp is going very well. I feel very strong. I feel super ready for Pura Vida Cycling Challenge, which isn't even until May. And I feel really confident with my bike, and everything's feeling good. But I feel the built up fatigue for sure.
Yeah. And there's a purpose behind that. And when you get to that week leading into the test again, there's more rest, less intensity. You sort of like are building yourself up, recovering, regrouping for that final ramp test. And then, ideally you want to increase your FTP. By how much, it depends. So there'll be a whole nother discussion about the number that you get after you've done 8 weeks.
And will I be satisfied with it?
Are you attached to the expectation?
Probably a little bit.
Yeah, we all are. We're all striving to be better. I mean, we're signing up for something where we say, if we do this, we're going to be better. Don't we do that all the time?
Yeah. I just it's funny how I definitely have that competitive spirit. Like I want to win at FTP, but like there's no winning at FTP because everybody's got their own FTP. So.
And what does it really mean?
But I still want to know if I'm winning. It's so bad.
It's so funny.
It's so good, I guess.
One athlete I talked to today, they're just going through some recovery in their body, and they had to detach from Strava. They're like, I just can't look at Strava anymore. I can't do it. There's just too much noise. It's the comparison, They're out there doing this and that, and I'm in here not doing, and it doesn't feel good. So same thing with FTP. It's all individual. But yeah, so bike camp is strong. I think most of us are almost through it. I shouldn't say us. Most of the team is going through it. I'm not in it. And I'm excited to see how it all plays out. I'm excited to see what you do in Costa Rica specifically. And it'll be after Oceanside, so you'll have an opportunity to use this on a race that requires you to be a good biker. Just got some hills out there.
Which year do you have a goal for Pura Vida? Or an intention or something that we have 1 year under our belt now?
Yeah, I want to push the hills more with the locals, the Ticos and Ticas.
That's going to be awesome.
Abel and Diego and Tony. Joel. Whoever is out there. I just want to ride. I want to see.
You're going to take Douglas and Luis Moron?
No. And it's not about that. It's just like I want to push myself while they're pushing themselves. Like the last day in Costa Rica last year is the day I finally, on the last hill, what was it, Cacao Hill?
Yeah, Cacao.
Me and Abel went, and we went for a little bit, and he obviously he was like, hang on to my wheel. And I was like, day 5 after doing an Ironman, the week before.
Which you're not going to have.
Which I won't have this time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my intention is I want to be up front. I want to, have some fun up there. Give it a good push. I'll be on a road bike, which I don't have. So that'll be an experience.
Is there a part of you that's like, you know what you're getting into?
Absolutely. It's like, why are you doing this?
It's so hard.
But it's so much fun.
I love it.
I think we talk about the hard part of it. But what about all the moments, like the moments when we actually are leaving the place to get on our bikes to go meet the locals? Like just that alone early in the morning is a beautiful, beautiful time. And then just cruising easy before you do the big hill with everyone and talking, and it's all easy pace, and there's laughter, and
you really have to pee, and you're like, oh my God, are we ever going to stop?
Gotta watch.
Nobody around me speaks English. How do I tell them?
I loved where we went. That was it. The
one day BJ and I were like, I was like, we have to stop.
So we just pulled over the side of the road. We just had to go.
Yeah, just there was no bush. There was just the side of the road.
It was great. Was the whole crew just kept going, but 2 of them stayed back to make sure that we would get back to the group.
Amazing.
It's so cool. Pura Vida Cycling Challenge. If you're curious about it, check it out. They just finished their January camp, and they have 3 more this year or 2 more?
2 more this year.
May and
September.
Yep. Yeah. What's your intention?
Well, that second day, which was my first day last year because I came a day late because of the retreat, is the 90-mile day, 10,000 feet of climbing. And so last year, my goal was like, okay, I'm just going to ride every day, because you're hearing about these crazy pitches, and you're like riding with young professionals, and just Jennifer herself, the founder, is like such an amazing cyclist. It's just like, okay, I'm just going to go. And my goal was to ride every day. And so the first day, you ride about 55 miles, and then you have second breakfast. Day two, which was day 1 for me last year, right? Day 2. And then, so at that point I called it a day, and that was a brilliant decision, because I think that set me up really well to finish the next days and be able to ride every day. So I got into the truck at 55 miles. And so this year I want to get to do the climb. So keep on the bike after second breakfast. And ideally, I would love to finish the goal. Okay, so stop beating around the bush. The goal is to complete day 2, which is 90 miles, 10,000 feet of climbing, which means this girl is going to have to do the Henshaw Loop at some point, which means we're going to Fatty's and we're getting some burritos with French fries in them.
Probably a couple times.
I know. Well, I know. I was like in such a little safe space with my Palomar ride. I was like, it's 3.5 hours. I go from the casino. You get 5,000 feet of climbing. It's like so great. And now, because I'm here to grow and expand, now I guess the next stop would be what? The Palomar Shuffle, which is like 60 something miles and 6,000 feet of climbing, and then a couple Henshaw loops.
Which is 88 miles, 8,000 feet of climbing.
88 miles, 8,000 feet of climbing, which is still, I'm gonna have another 2,000 feet on that second day. So I'm excited. Yeah, I like big goals, and I need to leave a day early this year, so I'm still getting the 4 days, because as we talked about in the last podcast, I'm meeting Valerie and Megan, so that we can kind of pull in and disconnect and have a lot of quiet time and preparation to hold space for this ever-growing, amazing group that's coming together for the retreat. So cool.
And you have 1 room left.
This room is so... As of right now, as of January 20th, we have 1 room left. It's a nature suite. It's a beautiful room. I've stayed in the nature suites for the last 2 years. One of the things I love about the nature suite, and we have it in the Pacifico cottage where you and I are staying, babe, is that the shower is outside. So you're outside in the jungle for your shower, but you have you have big bamboo poles around you, and that kind of makes the shower. But you're in the shower and you're just looking up at the canopy where the howler monkeys live, and it's just like the monkey show. So it's just amazing. I love it. And, it has air conditioning, which you need because it's so humid there. It's amazing. It's like a facelift. And it's a beautiful room. It can be 2 twin beds, which Valerie and I have shared the nature suites, or it can be a single room too. So anyway, we've got this one room left. And it's really funny because there's been so many people that are like, oh, I'm in. I'm going to sign up tonight. Oh, I'm in. Like, 5 people are like, I'm going to take that room, and nobody's taken it yet. So it's waiting for someone. And I don't know who that person is, but I can't wait to find out. And then once that room is sold, I guess we'll just see, if other people want to go, we can always check with Blue Spirit and see if they have more rooms. But I love this mystery around this room because it's waiting for someone. It's totally waiting for someone.
I'm going to manifest it for someone, but I'm not going to say who.
Okay.
All right. It's set. There you go.
It's really cool. It's waiting for someone. So yeah, that's May 13th to the 20th. And I will say, if you're waiting for next year to go to Costa Rica, probably don't do that, because right now I don't think we're going to return to Costa Rica. We're going to take a little pause on the Costa Rica. We're not taking a pause on the retreats. We're just going to explore some new locations. And maybe we will. I don't know. But right now, we're not planning on going back. So do not wait for next year if Costa Rica is on your list for this retreat. So it's really hard to think that we won't go back, because it's just it's so special there. But these other locations, this other location that we're looking at for July of 2024 is pretty spectacular. So stay tuned, because one of the reasons is the people who have been with us have come for the last 3 years to Costa Rica. They're kind of like, I want to keep going, but can we go somewhere else? So we're looking into that. Yeah.
Yeah, retreat life is fantastic. So is camp life. We just finished our camp here in Carlsbad, our 4th camp that we've put on since coming here, and we have such a beautiful crew of campers that came in and experienced some not quite normal weather here in San Diego, but big waves and some rain, but we got all our bikes in safely outside the rain. We were doing a lot of yoga, and we did that Yogi Triathlete Triathlon on Friday, where we meditate, do some yoga, and run 5K, pretty much. 5 mile was an option, but most of us did 5K. And you do that 3 times throughout the day. So it's very yoga intensive, and that was so much needed. Like, really good to experience the flow, to have you teach, then have me teach, and then have us co-teach. And this time we actually got in a hot studio, which was my jam. I didn't really have that much time to teach in the hot yoga studio environment, but definitely made the most of this one. And I think we all were having, because it was after we went to the pool in the torrential downpour, which I got to be on deck for to coach, and brought me a lot of joy, and then be able to go teach yoga in a hot studio. Really was an amazing group, amazing week. Topped it all off on Sunday night at the Plot.
Oh my God, we destroyed that
restaurant
menu
in Oceanside. So good. The appetizers, all this vegan sushi.
They kept sending out, like we basically ordered all the appetizers. Because we're just like so hungry, right?
What was the thing that came out with the red pepper?
That was it's essentially the vegan simulation of like tuna sushi.
Oh yeah,
like the raw tuna, which I think is it's like nigori, or I don't know. Yeah. I can't pronounce it. But it was done with tomato. It was unbelievable. But she sent out probably like, I don't even know, like what, 6 sushis for us? And we already had ordered like 4. And then she kept sending out dessert. Like she sent out like half of our desserts were free. Like they just kept sending stuff out to us, and we destroyed all of it. It was so delicious. sushi and
the chocolate vegan cheesecake.
Yeah, chocolate cheesecake.
I shouldn't say vegan. The whole thing is plant-based.
And this other cheesecake that's just like silk, which is not vegan, but vegan silk. And it's got this caramel on it. And then these super thin sliced pears like fanned across the top. Oh my God. It was unbelievable. It was such a delicious meal. And then I had this risotto, which I love risotto. And you don't really get risotto when you're vegan because it's typically made with like, dairy. And this delicious risotto is really grounding and earthy and yummy. And then they had this chana masala.
Oh, that was the special. Yeah.
Oh, that looked really good too. So yeah, we totally destroyed the plot menu, and they're just so lovely, and they get so excited when the athletes come. They're lovely place. So blessed to have that down the street. So that's always a really fun way to end, kind of an unofficial end to camp, because we still have like Monday morning.
Yeah, it was good. Great experience. We had all the coaches here. Love to just invest all our energy into the camp itself, and then have that day after where we kind of regroup and kind of reset, or 2 days after to kind of recharge.
Yeah, and fail at our bike workout.
Yeah,
that's okay though.
It was worth it.
Yeah, it was a super special group. I felt it when it was coming together. I was like, I would see the registrations come in and I'd be like, oh my gosh, this person is so great with this person, and now this person and this person. And then Linda, Chef Linda came, and that was such a surprise. And her and I had talked, and I just said, I just see you at camp, and I don't know how it's going to happen. I was like, how am I going to pay her? And, it's just like thinking about all this stuff, like how we're going to get her out here. Like, I just need that. We just need that billionaire on the team so I can like just share the financial abundance. And she was like, I'm totally visioning myself there. And then it all came together, and she was here, and that was such a special treat. She is something else. And if you're looking for, she is so versatile in her offerings. She's a health coach, she's a chef. She's great at meal planning. She's great at recipes. She's a recipe creator. She will do cooking classes with you. Like all of that is through Yogi Triathlete. So you can just get on the site and check it out. And it's kind of vague because it's like, have a call with her and everything, but it's like whatever you need. She's so multifaceted that, she will be able to serve you. And that's just her word, right? Like she's always just like, how can I serve? How can I serve? How can I serve? So she's another incredible gem that I never could have written on paper, the most ideal person. And she is that person plus so much more.
And Linda helped us with our cookbooks, helped the creation of that. And so we haven't had any cookbooks in a while, but what we do have is your book coming out. I know I'm putting together the final touches on it, you could say, and then we'll get an author's copy to take a look at it, see how it all looks printed up, and then it will be available to the masses. So we are close.
Yeah, we're super close. Awake Athlete is the name of the book, and that will be available. We're thinking of is going to be available in February. So keep your eye out on that. What I can tell you about this book is that there's no book like this in the world right now. And just like how a big inspiration for the cookbook came from a moment when I was in the grocery store and I went to get an ingredient, and it was like a $50 ingredient. And I was like, this is ridiculous. This is not inclusive. This is totally ridiculous. I'm going to just create a cookbook with all very simple recipes and one pot, one pan, one knife. You don't need a chef's kitchen. And so that was really a huge inspiration for the Yogi Triathlete cookbook. But quite honestly, the biggest inspiration for Awake Athlete was just picking up so many books on mind training and just being completely bored to death about what's already been proven. It was so sciencey, and I know that is of interest to many people, but to me, all that does is feed the intellect, and the intellect is not where change occurs. It's not. I'm getting a little passionate, so hold on, just take a breath and just like chill out. just going to chill out for a second. This is a very different book. I teach through story, so there's a lot of my story in there. You hear me now, you see me now, but there were so many years where Yogi Triathlete existed as a space for me to go out and race and train and use these techniques to train my mind. And not all of them, but a lot of those stories are in the book. And there's a little bit of science, but there's not a lot of science because I'm honestly not that concerned with what's already been proven. I am 100% vested in the possibilities of what can be. And so this is a very different book. There is no book like this in the athlete space. And I'm really excited to see where she goes. And this book moved through me starting in 2020 in a way where I couldn't stop it. So I had to start writing. But this was also the birth of the Awake Athlete podcast because I knew I had to get this information out sooner. We were in the middle of this pandemic and not everybody was thriving. And so that was really where a lot of the writing began. And then with the murder of our friend Mary, made me realize more than anything that life can end in any moment. And I didn't want mine to end without this being in the world. And so I'm thankful that I have lived to the point where I have allowed this manuscript to move through me. And now it will go out to the world and we'll see. I just feel like so blessed. I don't really take credit for any of the words that's in there. This came from a higher power. And it's deep. It's deep. And it's also light and I think funny. And definitely my personality is in there. So thank you for helping me design this book and create a beautiful cover. And we'll put it out to the world.
So look for that.
Yeah. February. So some people may have already made their choice that they are absolutely not going to read that book, and that's okay. And others might be like, "Ooh, I'm excited. I want to see." We'll see. We'll see what the universe does with it. I don't know. It's out of my hands.
Yeah, it's cool. So many exciting things happening. Yeah. Anything else?
No. Let's wrap it up.
All right.
Okay.
Until next month.
Okay. Until February.
If you have questions, send them in. We're always happy to answer them. We don't really get many.
I know. Apparently you like it when we have no idea what we're going to talk about.
So we just sort of riff on stuff that's happening in our lives or that we experience or see around us, which is fine. I have no problem talking about that. I know you don't either. But yeah, if you guys have questions, send them in. We look forward to these every month, just sharing with you and our insights and perspectives and inviting you into our home if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you haven't watched it on YouTube, take a look. Let us know what you think. You can't see it if you're listening to this, but Clark has been sleeping the entire time we've been recording this. He gets an A++ for this.
Well, people were asking yesterday after your happy birthday, by the way, BJ turned 50 yesterday, did his 100 hundreds. And afterwards we went and ate a whole bunch of food at Lofty Coffee. And people were asking me, like, has Clark crashed from camp yet? And he hadn't really, because Coach Liz was still here in those days. And then he got to go to Lofty yesterday. I feel like today is the day that he is.
And he got groomed.
Is this going to be in the video? Like, he hasn't moved, dude.
No,
I totally forgot he was here. But I guarantee you, if you got into the kitchen, he would get up right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, because food trumps all with this guy.
Yeah. But he's pretty peaceful right now.
I know. Let me get in there with him.
All right.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening. Take something away. Put it into action. For the love of God, put it into action. That's where change occurs. Not by just feeding the intellect. As our teacher says, the intellect is dust on the mirror, and it blurs what our ability to see clear. So change happens in the present moment. Get in touch with how you feel, because that is what's being answered by the internet. It doesn't matter how many books you've read or how smart you are. If you're not in touch with how you're feeling, then you're not in control of what you are creating in this life, because we're always creating in every moment.
And ask yourself, if not now, when?